The clang of steel on mail, the bitter tang of cold in the air, a score of men bloodied, dead and dying, strewn over a mile of ice and snow. This is how our story opens, with Conan and one lone Viking, the lone survivors of a bloody battle. But two is too many. They're out for each other's blood and for vengeance for their fallen comrades. Conan slays the last Viking, but not before taking a terrible blow to the head. And in his stupor, he looks up and he sees a beautiful woman standing over him, beckoning him to follow her off into the snow. Conan gives chase, maddened, ensorcelled by some strange magic that this beautiful woman has placed over him. But it's a trap. This strange woman leads Conan within axe range of two giants, huge hulking brutes, giants covered in frost and snow, blue as the open sea. But they've underestimated Conan. Here is no normal man. With the same ferocity and same savagery as which he had vanquished that lone Viking earlier, he slays the two giants. The woman is in shock, as nothing is going according to plan. In her eyes, Conan has changed from some sap led into a helpless trap, to an aggressor, a predator, and she must flee for her life. None of her magics can aid her, because Conan overcomes them all, struggling against the very elements to overcome her. And at the last, when she thinks all hope is lost, she cries out, "Ymir, save me!" And then the frost giant comes down and rescues his daughter from the grasp of this savage barbarian. Conan reels. He's not sure what to do. He feels someone shaking him. And when he wakes up, he finds some of his comrades come up to join the battle too late. But they follow Conan, and they find him unconscious in a snowbank, about to die of frostbite and hypothermia. They discuss Conan's strange adventure that they think is just the results of a blow to the head. Except inside of Conan's hand, his curled fist, is a piece of the garment the strange woman was wearing before she disappeared into the sky. The Frost Giant's daughter is perhaps the most underappreciated of the Conan stories written by Robert E. Howard. One of the early stories that's too easily dismissed, I think, because of its length and the overall simplicity of its story. But there are some key elements here that, because it is such an early story, they give us an insight into the character of Conan as Robert E. Howard was developing him. The overall plot of the story is simple. It follows a basic ghost story premise. There is an inciting incident in which a man meets a phantom, pursues this phantom, and at the end, like so many of these ghost stories, it's left up to the reader's interpretation as to whether or not the events happened at all, except there's that one little piece of evidence behind that can't be explained away through natural consequences. In this story, the Frost Giant's daughter, that's the blow to the head Conan receives. Any rational person can say all the things he did and said from there are the results of that blow to the head, except he's got that piece of the garment left behind that can't be explained away. He didn't get it in a battle, he didn't trade for it. Where did it come from? Contrary to what a lot of these ghost stories do, Conan is not any normal man. He's not your average Joe. So in the end, it is he who has the last laugh and not the ghost. In this case, the Frost Giant's daughter. In the development of Conan, this is the third story Robert E. Howard ever wrote. Previous to this, you had Phoenix on the Sword, The God in the Bowl, and it was followed by Towers of the Elephant. This story is important because it shows the clear development of Conan's character as a person with an indomitable will. You might trick him, you might influence him, but you will not overcome him. He's not someone to be pushed around by another person's whim. Adelaide, the Frost Giant's daughter, ensorcels Conan with this brutal lust, and in this way, she intends to trick Conan into following her across the ice and into the arms of her waiting brothers, the two Frost Giants that fight Conan. But like so many of the villains of these Conan stories, she underestimates Conan's abilities. And though he is maddened by this sorcery, he's not one to just lay over and die. His strength of will, his indomitable will, though altered by this sorcery, is able to conquer any obstacle. It enters into this reversal where for half of the story, we're worried about Conan chasing after this phantom. But in the second half of the story, it's this phantom trying to flee Conan. She's running for her life because she knows she's messed up. She cannot reverse the curse she has placed on Conan, but she must live with the consequences or escape. And escape she does. There are other stories that show Conan's drive and determination. There are plenty of other stories where he goes up against some sort of supernatural foe without having to have his personality altered by some sort of sorcery in order to move the plot forward. However, with the Frost Giant's daughter, all those elements that make a great Conan story are distilled. They're boiled down into a pure essence that just pounds, and it drives, and it jumps out at you and grabs you by the throat and demands that you pay attention. In the development of Conan as a literary character, the Frost Giant's daughter is too often overlooked. The story shows Robert E. Howard working through who Conan is as a character, a larger-than-life superhuman man The story shows Howard's growing fascination with Viking and Celtic culture, and references to Ymir, the frost giant, and to Adelaide. The story shows Howard's grasp over the form of the genre, and the way he can apply it to new forms. Like I say, The Frost Giant's Daughter is essentially a ghost story, but Howard wraps it up in this action-adventure setting, giving it steel and blood, flipping it on its head. Whereas a normal protagonist of a ghost story might fall ill of the Phantom's plot, or escape from it just by sheer luck, Conan, being this superhuman figure, escapes the Phantom's plot by just being better, by being indomitable, by having the strength and iron will to overcome against insurmountable odds. I would like to hear from you. Agree, disagree? Do you have some other Robert E. Howard story that you think is undervalued in the discussion of his work? Do you have some story by some other author other than Robert E. Howard that you think is just entirely undervalued in what it gives to the genre, and in how it mixes and melds genres to create something unique, something distinct? Let me know down below. Goodbye. There's a cat going by. About to scare me to death.